Hey guys, it's Lee with Untapped Potential. There's cyclopses at the gate. We can't wait. I was actually afraid of cyclopses as a kid after seeing one in an issue of Boys Life magazine. Don't ask me why I was terrified of them, but I was. So this is going to be cathartic as all heck. Anyway, a terrifying cyclops approaches the main gate, and he's not alone. You and your Irregulars are the only ones who can stop the monsters from storming the city. Fail to defeat them, and Akros will fall. Succeed, and you'll become a hero worthy of the gods. Let's go. But first, the training drone, who seems to have no eyes. Why is that?
Enchantments
no idea.
Are powerful cards that stay on the battlefield after you cast them. They have a wide range of effects. Some boost your creatures, while others make things more difficult for your opponent. Like most spells, you cast enchantment spells during your main phase.
Okay, so basically, these are lasting permanent effects, and they're very cool.
In this skill quest, use the enchantment in your hand to win the game this turn.
The Theros set in Paper Magic actually had a strong enchantment focus, so it's cool that they're teaching us this using Kytheon, who is from Theros, and Akros is on Theros. So I think since we have a bunch of 2/2s and he has 2/3s, we need to play Honor the Pure, giving all our white creatures +1/+1. Again, this is the sort of thing, since it will directly affect combat, that we do want to play before we attack. Anything that will actually affect combat that needs to be done at sorcery, basically main phase speed, that is the sort of thing that you do first. And also, our opponent curiously double blocked us, so now we get to drag the creatures around to determine who gets blocked in what order. Here, it actually doesn't matter because they're all the same. So the robot gets killed, and we're going to go ahead and just skip.
Great job! Enchantments are powerful because their effects last as long as they're on the battlefield.
Okay, we got that under control. Let's see if there's anything else before we have to go deal with old One Eye over there. Yep.
Auras are a special type of enchantment. Most attach to a single creature and affect only that creature. The enchant ability will tell you what that aura attaches to. You can target any creature with most auras. Read each one to see how it affects the enchanted creature. If it has a negative effect, you can choose to attach it to one of your opponent's creatures. If the enchanted creature leaves the battlefield, the aura is put into your graveyard.
One of the things that I did before I started recording this round is I went back to my options menu. You can, it by default has an option checked that you cannot target your own creatures with negative abilities and you cannot target your opponent's creatures with positive ones. I went ahead and turned that off because 1, it'll make me pay better attention to what I'm doing, but also 2, because there are circumstances, fringe though they may be, that I'll want to do that, and I don't want it to cost me a game somewhere down the line. So as a friendly heads up, that's in the options menu. I encourage you to check it out.
To complete this skill quest, find a way to win this turn. You'll need to use both positive and negative auras to get the job done.
Alright, our opponent has a 4/4 flyer and several 2/1 creatures clogging up the ground. What we have is a 1/1 creature, and not an impressive one at that, and 2 auras in our hand. Pacifism, which means enchanted creature can't attack or block, and 1 where the enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each planes we control and has flying. I think the strategy's obvious. We cast Pacifism, targeting his powerful flyer. It resolves, and then we used Armored Ascension, targeting our own cadet. It now gets +6/+6 and has flying, and since his flyer cannot block, we get to swing in the air for 7, sending the robot back to the junk heap once again. Is it the same robot, do you think? Or is it maybe a different one every time? Are we like wiping out a race of robots?
One popular strategy is to use auras to make a massive threat to dominate the battlefield.
Do not listen to this woman. She lies to you. Yes, making a creature 1 creature strong and powerful is all well and good, but if your opponent then uses a way to remove it, like a kill spell, you will get horribly blown out because you put all your eggs in one basket. Be wary of that as you play. course, some matches, that's the exact right thing to do. Again, use your best judgment.
Some cards put +1/+1 counters on creatures. A +1/+1 counter increases the creature's power and toughness by 1. These counters stay on the creature as long as the creature is on the battlefield. If the creature leaves the battlefield, the counters disappear.
You got it.
In this skill quest, your opponent is about to create a massive army and obliterate you. Win this turn before that happens.
Okay. Yes. Oh, wow. Yes, our opponent is about to get huge. He has 5 creatures in the field that if he has 5 or more lands, and he does, these will all get 4 +1/+1 counters at the beginning of his turn. So we can't afford to let that happen. We're going to play our supply line Cranes, which lets us put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Please note, it's not target creature we control. We could put it on his if we wanted to. We don't, of course, so we're going to put it on one of our own Glory Seekers, who's going to be slightly more glorious than his friend. That gives us a combined 5 power to attack our opponent with. And since all his little bugs are tapped down, he cannot block, and we get in for the victory.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Some decks are based on casting a creature and piling on +1/+1 counters until it's an unstoppable force. Try it sometime.
This strategy, I will say, is a little better, because usually when you put the +1/+1 counter on, you're also getting some additional effect, and it doesn't tend to penalize you quite as much for going deep. I use a deck based on the Heroics of Theros, actually, that loves these things. Alright, now it can be time to weigh on some Cyclopses? Maybe? Thank you, come on, I got childhood issues to work out here. Let's go. Yeah, I misclicked. Okay, there's the Vanguard, standard opening play. We're going to pass the turn. When I say pass the turn, I mean we're going to give control over to our opponent. Usually when I say pass, I mean give priority, which is when we can respond. Give that to our opponent. Okay. We're drawing a nice curve here, and we're going to play our second land just in case that we need to use the instant that we have in our hand. I can't see why we would this turn, but, you know, it never hurts to be wary. We're going to confirm the attack to get in for 2 quick damage. Because it's getting late and I want to record a lot more tonight, we're going to cut the little animation short. We have the option to turn those off, and when I'm not doing story, I might do that for expediting of time purposes. I have not decided yet. If you have an opinion on that, leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Okay, there's another one of those dual lands. This that we talked about earlier. This one goes for red or green. This is a card with Vigilance, which, as we discussed earlier, doesn't cause the creature to tap. And it's got 3 power and 1 toughness. You know, like our little kitty cats who cannot stay alive. So once again, we're just going to attack and offer our opponent a trade. If he wants to eat one of our cards, that is entirely his business, and I am entirely okay with it. He doesn't, though. I guess the Cyclops are just more of a, let it roll off sort of guy. So they're going to take it, and we're going to play... I got it, I misclicked, gosh. Okay, we're going to play an Eagle of the Watch. With our own Vigilance and with Flying. So now if he attacks us, we get to decide if we want to trade with him. Looks like the shoe's on the other foot now. And he is attacking us. I'm slightly worried that he might have a kill spell here, but at the same time, I really don't want him beating me for 3 damage and then blocking. So I'm just going to go ahead and offer a trade here and hope he doesn't have an instant. Get lucky, he doesn't. So our creatures both trade, meaning I now have control of the battlefield again. He has a Bloodrock Cyclops, which has to attack each turn if able. This could become a very big problem for us. On one hand, that ability can be a negative, because it means whatever we have, he's going to run headfirst into it. Which in this case, we're going to play Great Heart, who doesn't have enough power to kill it, but it has enough toughness to withstand it. Unfortunately, he can block our smaller creatures, and we don't want to sacrifice them. So we're actually just not going to do anything this turn, and we're going to give priority back to our opponent. He's going to play his 4th land, and he's going to attack because he has to. We are tapped out. We don't have any mana available, so we can't use our Glorious Charge for some sort of trick. But what we can do is block with our 2/4, meaning our creatures should both bounce off of each other, and both get to live. Here he plays a 5/2, another Cyclops. This one is less scary because neither of our creatures can trade with it since it has such low toughness. We're going to main phase 1 play Honor the Pure here, because there's no reason we don't want to get as big as possible as fast as we can. We're going to also go ahead and go to combat. We're going to attack our opponent with both of our smaller creatures, but we're going to leave the heart up in order to block the Cyclops when it comes back on the counter swing next turn. And he's going to go ahead and block with his bigger Cyclops to take less damage, meaning that we get through some damage and we get his big threat off the field. Since we don't really need the Glorious Charge anymore in order to win the combat next turn, we're going to play the Swift Claw to keep our offensive up. Since our opponent has to attack next turn, and we now have 3 power, he's walking into an ambush. And unless our opponent has some sort of powerful instant or sorcery, they're going down. Success. The Cyclops walked right into an ambush. Our opponent plays Rampant Growth, searching their library for a basic land and putting it onto the battlefield. Looks like the Cyclopses are building up to something big. Let's work fast to make sure that doesn't happen. He's also playing the Font of Fertility, which at a later time, by sacrificing it and paying some land, he can put even more land onto the battlefield. Whatever he's working towards, it can't be good for us. Let's stop for a second and do some math. Our opponent only has 1 mana available, meaning he probably can't afford any tricks. Our creatures also have a combined 10 power, but we have to do 11 damage. This is one of those times where we let Glorious Charge do its work. Again, the smarter play would be to do that at the last possible moment to not give our opponent more information, but since he's essentially tapped out here, I don't mind doing it. I don't think there's any red mana kill spells that could just threaten our creatures with the amount of toughness they all have. And it appears that we were right. So we knock the opponent out, we let the Swift Claw, who finally lived, get a victory. And we've repelled the Cyclops invasion. And I've recovered from my childhood trauma. Real good use of an evening. Alright, what's next for Kytheon? A deck upgrade. Alright. Your heroism at the gates of Akros did not go unnoticed. Heliod, god of the sun, seeks a champion to face an even greater foe. He offers you a sun-blessed spear and instructs you to destroy a mighty titan who serves Erebos, god of the dead. It appears it is an all-god showdown coming up in round 5 of Kytheon's story, the final round before we unlock our card collection and get to start playing against other people. Oh, I'm so excited. Alright guys, we'll be back very shortly where we're going to go after Erebos' Titan and save Theros once and for all. Nothing could possibly go wrong.